In a quiet corner of the galaxy, an elderly human named John Kane lives in peaceful isolation until the Galactic Council comes knocking. The enforcers, sent to apprehend him as a potential threat, have no idea what they're about to awaken. John Kane isn't just any ordinary man. He is a living legend, a warrior known as the Warden, whose past victories reshaped entire galaxies. Now, the Council must face a chilling truth. Some forces cannot be contained, and some legends never die. The setting of the story, focusing on the quiet, unassuming life of John Kane. He resides in a humble home on the outskirts of the Terran colony, a remote area that lies far from the bustling center of galactic activity. The choice of this setting is crucial in establishing the contrast between John's present life and the legendary past that is about to be revealed. For decades, he has lived in relative obscurity, away from the eyes of the galactic powers. His life is simple, peaceful, and unremarkable on the surface, filled with the rhythms of daily existence rather than the intrigues of intergalactic politics or warfare. Despite this, whispers have begun to spread about John Kane's true identity. Though the larger galactic community has long forgotten him, rumors and legends about his past as the Warden have quietly resurfaced. These whispers eventually reach the ears of the Galactic Council, which is responsible for maintaining order and overseeing the security of the galaxy. The Council, ever vigilant against potential threats, flags John Kane as a person of interest based on the whispers surrounding his past. His quiet life and age would normally suggest that he is no longer a threat, but something about his presence has made him a target of the Council's attention. This contrast between John's serene, secluded life and the growing sense of suspicion about his true identity sets the stage for the unfolding events, highlighting the tension between his past and present. The fact that John has lived unassuming and quiet for decades further underscores the dramatic shift that is about to occur in his life. He has become a symbol of someone who, despite his humble outward appearance, carries a weighty history, one that even the Galactic Council cannot ignore. The arrival of the alien enforcers to his home signals that his past, long buried, is about to be exposed, and his peaceful existence will be shattered. This introduction of John Kane's seemingly ordinary life, contrasted with the mysterious and powerful figure he once was, creates a powerful sense of anticipation. The reader is left wondering, what is it about this frail, elderly man that has made him a potential threat, and what could his past reveal about him? The focus from John Kane's quiet life to the arrival of the alien enforcers, who have come with a specific mission to apprehend him. This moment is significant as it marks the abrupt intrusion of galactic authority into John's previously isolated existence. The enforcers storm into his home, bringing with them a force and energy that starkly contrasts with the peaceful atmosphere John has maintained for decades. The imagery of the storming is deliberate, emphasizing the aggressive, unwelcome nature of their mission. These enforcers are part of a higher galactic order, and their presence conveys both the power and the threat of the Galactic Council. The mission itself is clear: to capture John Kane, identified as a potential threat. This is not a mere arrest of a common criminal, but the apprehension of someone whose existence has been flagged by the galactic powers. The fact that John's name has resurfaced in intelligence networks, despite his decades of living in obscurity, speaks volumes about the influence and reach of the Galactic Council. The enforcers focus on John Kane, rather than on a larger or more immediate threat, also indicates that they view him not just as an elderly man, but as someone with immense potential danger lurking in his past. Despite their mission, the enforcers feel a sense of unease upon encountering John. They expect to find an old, frail man who would offer no resistance. And initially, John complies with this assumption. However, his calm demeanor in the face of their intrusion raises immediate questions. John does not react with fear or panic. He simply observes them with a quiet, composed gaze. His response to being shackled, without resistance, is unsettling to the enforcers, who might have anticipated more of a struggle or at least some sign of rebellion. This calmness signals that John is not the helpless figure they may have expected. His acceptance of their actions, along with the piercing quality of his eyes, creates an aura of mystery around him. It's as though John is not just an elderly man being taken into custody. He is someone who understands more than they realize, and that realization begins to unsettle the enforcers, building the tension that will unravel further in the story. This point serves to establish that, while John may appear physically frail and ordinary on the surface, there is something deeper and more powerful at play. The enforcer's unease foreshadows the complexity of the situation and hints at the true nature of John Kane, making it clear that he is far from the simple target they may have imagined. It also suggests that their mission, which they expect to be routine, will soon lead to an unraveling of truths that they are unprepared for. Deeper into the psychological and atmospheric tension aboard the ship as the alien enforcers transport John Kane to the Galactic Council headquarters. The ride is fraught with unease, which begins to subtly unravel the facade of normalcy that the enforcers had anticipated. While the enforcers are experienced and have likely transported many prisoners before, the air of discomfort surrounding John's presence is palpable. This point illustrates that John Kane is not just any prisoner. He is someone whose very presence exudes an unsettling power, despite his age and frail appearance. The key element in this point is the enforcer's growing sense of discomfort, even fear, that slowly creeps over them as they observe John. The fact that these highly trained enforcers, accustomed to dealing with all kinds of individuals, are suddenly on edge suggests that there is something unique about John. His calm, unwavering composure, combined with his perceptive gaze, makes them feel as though they are being scrutinized or watched on a deeper level. Every so often, John's eyes flicker toward them, and this brief glance is enough to make the enforcers feel as though he can see through them. This subtle, almost imperceptible tension builds a sense of mystery around John, making the reader and the enforcers wonder what exactly is going on beneath the surface of this elderly man. The enforcers, who might have expected an easy journey with an unresisting prisoner, now find themselves questioning their assumptions. John's silence and the power he seems to radiate create an uncomfortable atmosphere in the enclosed space of the ship. This is a moment of psychological manipulation from John. Even if it is unintentional, he does not need to exert physical force or speak to command the situation. His mere presence is enough to disturb the enforcers, hinting at his far greater potential influence. They begin to feel as though they are not in control, and this subtle shift in the power dynamic suggests that John is not as vulnerable as they first believed. This point also acts as a transition from the physical action of capturing John to the psychological interplay between him and his captors. The enforcers, used to being in control, are now caught in a growing sense of uncertainty. John's eyes seem to probe them, and this psychological pressure forces them into a position where they are not just physically transporting him, but mentally grappling with who he truly is and what he represents. This shift in power dynamics, subtly communicated through the unease of the enforcers, foreshadows the much larger revelation of John Kane's past and the reason why he remains such a legendary figure in galactic history. This internal tension aboard the ship serves as a critical turning point, suggesting that John's true power lies not in physical strength, but in his unshakable resolve and unspoken knowledge of his own legacy. The arrival of John Kane at the Galactic Council headquarters, where the environment shifts from the enclosed, tense atmosphere of the ship to the cold, clinical setting of an interrogation chamber. This setting serves to emphasize the power imbalance between John and the galactic authorities as they prepare to interrogate him in a sterile, controlled environment. The cold, impersonal nature of the room contrasts sharply with John's quiet, composed demeanor, further highlighting the disparity between the humanity and warmth he exudes and the coldness of the bureaucracy he is now facing. Upon his arrival, John is placed into the interrogation chamber, a setting meant to intimidate and extract information from those who are brought before it. The room is designed to be harsh and uncomfortable, with bright, unforgiving lights that illuminate every corner and create an atmosphere of interrogation and control. This is not a room for compassion or understanding, but for interrogation and manipulation. However, John does not seem fazed by this environment. Unlike typical prisoners who might display fear, anxiety, or resistance, John maintains his calm. His reaction to the interrogation setup reflects his internal strength and composure, revealing that he has been in far more intense situations before. The officials behind the one-way mirror observe him with growing curiosity and unease, realizing that this man, seemingly frail, has a presence that cannot be easily subdued by sterile surroundings or oppressive tactics. At the same time, the fact that high-ranking officials are observing him from behind a one-way mirror illustrates the significance of this interrogation. John's presence has clearly garnered the attention of the most powerful figures within the Galactic Council. They are not only interested in him because of his past, but because they now realize that he represents something much larger, an enigma who holds secrets that could have significant consequences for the galaxy. The officials positioning behind the mirror suggest their desire for distance from the subject, a way to keep themselves safe from the potential repercussions of dealing directly with such a dangerous figure. The mirror itself symbolizes the isolation John feels from the rest of the galaxy, a theme that will run throughout the story. He is now a man who has been dissected by gossip and myth, a figure that has been reduced to a mystery for the Council to unravel. This moment in the interrogation chamber is crucial because it sets up the psychological battle between John and the Council. While the Council members may have control over the physical environment, they do not yet understand the nature of their adversary. They view John as a subject to be broken or controlled, but John's calm presence defies this assumption. The sterile room, which is meant to symbolize control and order, becomes the backdrop for John's quiet defiance. It marks the beginning of the Council's realization that they might not be dealing with an ordinary prisoner, but someone who is capable of challenging their established authority and norms in ways they have yet to comprehend. The first significant revelation about John Kane's past, a moment that shifts the course of the interrogation and starts to dismantle the Galactic Council's perception of him. The interrogator begins by asking John if he knows why he is there, a standard opening question meant to establish control and assert dominance over the situation. John, however, responds with a calm and almost knowing demeanor, saying that he imagines the Council has finally figured out who he used to be. This response immediately hints at the deeper layers of John's identity and suggests that his capture is not the result of recent actions or crimes, but because of something much more significant from his past, a past that the Council had clearly not fully understood until now. John's mention of who I used to be is deliberately vague, but it intrigues the interrogator and the officials observing from behind the mirror. The phrase sets the stage for a dramatic unveiling of his true identity, a mystery that had been simmering beneath the surface of the interrogation. It is at this point that John first drops the bombshell. He was once known as the Warden. This revelation shocks everyone in the room, including the high-ranking officials behind the mirror. The name, the Warden, carries with it a heavy legacy, one tied to a notorious figure in galactic history who had been thought to be long gone. The Warden is remembered as a brilliant human strategist and warrior whose reputation had spread far beyond the confines of Earth. The Council members, who had likely heard rumors but never believed them, are suddenly forced to confront the reality that this frail, elderly man in front of them is the same person who had been responsible for turning the tide of battles, outwitting entire fleets, and playing a pivotal role in ending the Drawn Wars. This moment of revelation serves as a critical turning point in the story. The interrogator's immediate response is one of disbelief. He cannot fathom that this old man could be the legendary Warden. To him, it seems impossible. The Council had erased any trace of the Warden from their records long ago, assuming that such a figure was either dead or no longer relevant. Yet John's calm, knowing smile and his quiet confidence suggest otherwise. His demeanor remains unchanged by the shock in the room, as if he had been waiting for this moment all along. The interrogator's incredulity contrasts sharply with John's unshaken calm, further reinforcing the power imbalance in the room. The revelation not only throws the Council into disarray, but also forces them to reckon with the idea that the man they have brought before them is far more than they had imagined. This moment also serves to deepen the mystery surrounding John Kane. The audience is now made aware of his extraordinary past, which had remained hidden for decades. The interrogation takes on a new layer of complexity, as the council must now grapple with the implications of John's past actions, his reputation as the warden, and the possibility that he might still possess the same strategic brilliance and lethal skill he was known for in his prime. The shift from seeing John as a frail, elderly prisoner to recognizing him as a powerful, legendary figure sets the stage for the psychological battle that will unfold in the coming moments. It signals that John is not simply a man being interrogated. He is someone with the ability to manipulate the situation to his advantage, using his history and his intellect as weapons far more potent than any physical restraint could be. The growing tension between John Kane and the interrogator as the truth about his identity begins to sink in, and the interrogator starts to question whether or not John is lying about being the warden. This point highlights the internal struggle the interrogator faces as he grapples with disbelief and the slowly rising realization that John is indeed who he claims to be. The interrogator's immediate reaction to John's declaration that he was once the warden is one of skepticism and resistance. He outright rejects the idea, spitting that John is lying, despite the undeniable confidence in John's expression. This denial from the interrogator is not just a simple refusal to believe a prisoner, but a defense mechanism, as the revelation completely destabilizes his understanding of the situation. John's response to the interrogator's disbelief further intensifies the power dynamic in the room. His calm, yet pointed retort, asking the interrogator if he really believes that the restraints are capable of holding him if John didn't want to be there, serves as both a challenge and a subtle threat. The interrogator, still trying to maintain control, now faces an uncomfortable truth. John Kane, the seemingly frail old man, possesses a power and presence far beyond what he had expected. John's statement is not just a commentary on the physical restraints, but on the larger illusion of control that the council thinks it has over him. By calmly asserting that they are holding him only because he allows it, John undermines the council's authority and forces the interrogator to confront the fact that he is not dealing with a helpless prisoner, but with someone who is still in complete control of his faculties and power. The interrogator hesitates in this moment of realization, unsure of how to proceed. This brief hesitation is telling. It marks the first crack in the interrogator's certainty. He has to question whether the restraints, which are designed to suppress even the most powerful beings, would truly be effective against John if he chose to resist. The growing unease in the room is palpable as the interrogator starts to grapple with the implications of what John's calm demeanor and confident words really mean. The interrogator's own doubt highlights the shift in the balance of power. What had seemed like a straightforward interrogation is now a psychological chess match, where the interrogator is forced to question his own assumptions and the strength of the forces at play. John's steady confidence, combined with his subtle manipulation of the interrogator's emotions and thoughts, signals that the interrogation is no longer about extracting information, but about testing the limits of control and authority. The interrogator may have started with the assumption that John Kane was a defenseless, aged man, but now he is beginning to understand that John possesses a mental and psychological power that far exceeds his physical appearance. This shift in power dynamics is important because it sets up the next stage of the story, where John will begin to reveal more of his past and use his intellect and influence to manipulate the situation in ways that the interrogators, despite their best efforts, will not be able to control. The moment when John Kane fully asserts his psychological and strategic dominance over the interrogation process. After the interrogator hesitates, John's calm and deliberate response shifts the conversation from a simple interrogation to a deeper, more personal revelation. This moment illustrates not just John's vast intellect and experience, but also his command over the situation. John begins to speak in more philosophical terms, offering a perspective on power that completely redefines the interrogator's understanding of the situation. He explains that power is not merely about physical strength or advanced technology. It is about the choices a person makes. This statement is loaded with meaning, especially coming from someone with John's history, and it serves as a key turning point in both the narrative and the psychological battle at play. John's words reveal a central theme of the story: the idea that true power does not lie in outward displays of strength or in the wielding of advanced weaponry, but in the ability to make choices that transcend what others expect or assume. This perspective is at odds with the very foundation of the Galactic Council, which likely values military might, technological superiority, and strategic control. John, by contrast, has seen empires rise and fall, not because of their military prowess, but because of the decisions made by individuals within those empires. This insight further reinforces his role as a figure who exists beyond the Council's understanding, someone who has the power to shape history not through force, but through the weight of his choices. As John continues, he reveals his personal history, alluding to the countless decisions he has made over the years. He acknowledges that he has chosen peace, a peaceful existence after a life of warfare and conflict. This personal choice of peace speaks to John's deep wisdom and experience, showing that he has not merely survived the turbulence of galactic wars, but has actively decided to step away from it all. This reveals another key aspect of his character. While he could easily resume his role as a powerful figure, he has chosen to leave that life behind. However, John also makes it clear that this peace is not born from weakness or passivity. If pushed, he warns the interrogator, his choices can shift, and the consequences will be dire. This subtle threat is potent not because of physical violence, but because it underscores the psychological and strategic prowess John still holds. The interrogator, still processing John's words, feels the full weight of John's influence in the room. When John leans forward and tells the interrogator, "If you force my hand, you'll regret it," the statement is not just a warning, but a promise. For the first time in the interrogation, John's words are tinged with a coldness that contrasts sharply with his previously calm and composed demeanor. This shift in tone demonstrates the depth of John's control over the situation. He can exude calmness or intensity as the moment requires. This psychological manipulation is what makes John so dangerous, not just physically, but intellectually and emotionally. The interrogator and the officials behind the mirror now realize that John is not just a man with a storied past. He is someone who can still manipulate and shape the present with his choices and actions. This point further emphasizes John's role as a legendary figure who transcends the confines of age, appearance, and even his past. He is someone who has learned that true power lies in control over oneself and the ability to influence others, even without the need for physical force. His calm demeanor and philosophical insight reveal a man who is both a tactician and a wise leader. The tension in the interrogation room continues to mount as John's influence grows, setting the stage for what comes next in the story. The realization by the Galactic Council that they are not simply dealing with a relic of the past, but with someone who still possesses the power to reshape the future. The turning point in the story, as John Kane makes an explicit and undeniable assertion of his dominance over the Galactic Council's interrogators and their power structures. In this crucial moment, John Kane moves from being a prisoner in a confined room to becoming the one in control of the entire situation, not through physical action, but by exerting his psychological influence. After delivering his chilling warning, "You'll regret waking the warden," the room is engulfed in an eerie silence. The officials behind the one-way mirror and the interrogator are left to absorb the true meaning of John's words, and their unease grows palpable. The atmosphere shifts from one of interrogation to one of fear, as John's statement weighs heavily on everyone present. This moment signifies a significant power shift. While the Council's enforcers and officials may have initially viewed John Kane as a relic of the past, a frail old man captured for reasons they could control, his calm demeanor, sharp intellect, and the legacy of his past are now impossible to ignore. John's words about regret are not just threats. They carry the gravitas of his experience as the Warden, someone who had the ability to single-handedly change the course of galactic conflicts. The interrogator's initial confidence and the Council's belief in their ability to control the situation crumble as they begin to grasp that John Kane is not just a prisoner. They are dealing with a force that, if provoked, could once again reshape the galaxy with his decisions. The tension escalates as the lights in the interrogation room flicker. This detail, though seemingly minor, serves as a symbolic reflection of the disruption John's presence has caused. The flickering lights are a physical manifestation of the power John wields over the situation, as if the very environment is affected by his words and influence. The council officials behind the mirror may try to dismiss this as a technical malfunction, but deep down, they understand that the true cause is the fear and authority emanating from John. He has no need to exert physical force. His mere presence, his history, and the psychological weight of his words are enough to unsettle even the most powerful figures in the room. John's ability to remain completely composed, despite the growing tension, further underscores his control over the situation. Unlike the interrogator and the officials, who are visibly affected by the atmosphere in the room, John seems almost unaffected by the power dynamics shifting around him. His calmness is a direct reflection of his mastery over himself and his surroundings, and it serves as a silent reminder of why he was once known as the Warden. The interrogator and the officials now realize that the man sitting before them is not just an old man with a past. He is a living embodiment of strategic brilliance and psychological mastery. His power does not reside in technology or physical strength, but in his ability to control others, to manipulate the flow of events, and to shape the perception of those around him. At this point in the story, John's true influence becomes undeniable. The room, once a place where the interrogator sought to extract information, now becomes a place where John is rewriting the rules of the engagement. The interrogator, who was initially in charge, is now second-guessing his every move. The officials behind the mirror are no longer sure of how to handle the situation, and John has fully shifted the balance of power in his favor without lifting a finger. This moment sets the stage for the final resolution, where John will ultimately leave the council with a lesson they will not soon forget. The moment when John Kane, after asserting his dominance and psychological control over the interrogation process, is allowed to leave the council's ship and return to his quiet life. The tension in the room has reached its peak, and it is clear that the Galactic Council, once so confident in their ability to control and interrogate John, now understands that they are dealing with a force far beyond their comprehension. After John's chilling warning, "You'll regret waking the Warden," the situation shifts irreversibly. His influence is so strong that, rather than continuing to press for information or attempt to restrain him, the council officials and interrogators are left with no choice but to release him. This moment of release is not simply a physical action, but a recognition of John Kane's overwhelming psychological and strategic power. The interrogator and the council officials understand, in this moment, that they have underestimated him at every turn. They've tried to contain him, interrogate him, and extract information from him, but John has turned the tables by showing them that true power is not about physical force or restraint. His quiet demeanor, strategic thinking, and deep knowledge of the universe have left the council in a state of awe and fear. By choosing to leave the situation peacefully, John asserts that he no longer has any interest in the council's affairs. This decision is a clear demonstration of his autonomy and control over his life and the situation. As John is allowed to leave, he delivers a final, powerful statement to the captain of the council's ship. "Next time, remember this. Humans may age, but some of us never forget who we are." This line is incredibly significant because it encapsulates the core of John's character and the message he is imparting to the council. The council's enforcers and officials had assumed that John, as an elderly man who had spent years in quiet isolation, was a shadow of his former self. They saw him as an isolated relic of the past, someone whose best days were long behind him. But John's statement serves as a reminder that his legacy and power are not tied to his age or physical condition. It is not his body, but his mind, his choices, and his unyielding will that make him formidable. The council may have thought they were dealing with a frail, harmless man, but they have learned that some individuals, no matter how much time has passed, retain their power and influence. In this moment, John also subtly critiques the Galactic Council's understanding of power and history. The council's officials had seen John as irrelevant because he had voluntarily stepped away from his previous life of war and conflict. They believed that aging humans, particularly those who chose peace, were no longer a threat. But John's words make it clear that the Council's perspective is narrow and flawed. His refusal to be defined by his past life or his age highlights a larger theme in the story. True power lies in one's ability to choose their path, to remember who they are, and to maintain control over their actions. John's departure back to his home, under the twin suns, signals that the conflict between him and the Galactic Council is far from over. The Council may have released him now, but they have learned an important lesson. Underestimating someone based on their age or quiet demeanor can have catastrophic consequences. John Kane has reasserted his position in the galaxy, and the Council's decision to let him go only reinforces the notion that, despite their technological advances and political power, they have failed to comprehend the true nature of the human spirit. The galaxy may now look at John Kane with a new sense of respect or fear, as they understand that the Warden has not been forgotten and may yet choose to intervene again if the circumstances demand it. Thus, Point 9 serves as both a conclusion to the immediate conflict and a setup for future implications. John's release is symbolic of the shift in the balance of power between individuals and institutions, showing that there are beings in the galaxy who are beyond the reach of the Council's influence. The Council's failure to control John Kane, and their subsequent acknowledgement of his formidable presence, leaves a lasting impact on both John's character arc and the larger narrative. The galaxy and the Council will never be the same after the Warden's reawakening. The final moment of the story, where John Kane's influence and legacy are fully realized, leaving an indelible mark on the Galactic Council and the galaxy at large. After his release from the interrogation, John's actions and words have demonstrated that he is not just a man of the past, but a living force capable of reshaping the future. The final lines of the story, as he turns to the captain of the ship and delivers his parting words, are both an acknowledgement of his own power and a profound warning to the Council. Humans may age, but some of us never forget who we are. This statement serves as a culmination of the themes of the story, particularly the idea that strength, wisdom, and influence are not bound by time, age, or physical appearance. John's statement is a powerful reminder to the Galactic Council that there are individuals, like him, who have the ability to transcend their pasts and continue to shape the galaxy, even from the sidelines. The Council had thought they were dealing with an old man, someone who had chosen to live quietly in isolation, but John's unassuming exterior belies the immense power he still holds within. His life of peace may have been a conscious choice, but that does not mean he has lost his abilities or his legacy. In fact, his ability to maintain control over his actions and decisions, even in his older years, speaks volumes about his enduring influence. His departure is not just an exit from the interrogation room. It is a statement that he is still an active force in the galaxy, one that the Council must reckon with. The galaxy at large, especially the Galactic Council, will now have to reconsider their assumptions about humanity. Throughout the interrogation, they had seen John as a potential threat due to his past, but they failed to understand the depth of his choices and the strength of his will. The Council's inability to fully comprehend John's motivations, capabilities, and resolve shows their limitations. They have learned that a person's past actions, their ability to choose peace, and their capacity for strategic thought can be just as powerful, if not more so, than their military strength or technological advancements. John's release serves as a challenge to the Council's understanding of power. It's not just about raw force, but about the ability to make choices that resonate throughout time. As John returns to his quiet home under the twin suns, the final scene evokes a sense of both closure and anticipation. On the surface, it seems like a return to normalcy for John, as he walks back to the life he had chosen for himself. However, the impact of his actions reverberates throughout the galaxy. His departure marks the end of this particular conflict with the Council, but it also signals that the balance of power in the galaxy has shifted. The Council has learned that John Kane, far from being a relic of the past, is a living reminder of what true power looks like. He has chosen peace, but his presence, his intelligence, and his wisdom make him a formidable force when the need arises. The finality of John's departure suggests that the story is not over. The galaxy now understands that John Kane, the Warden, is not just a figure of legend, but someone who still has the power to change the course of history. This final point implies that the galaxy has entered a new era, one where the old rules no longer apply. The Council's authority, based on military might and technological superiority, is now questioned. In a galaxy full of advanced species and empires, the true power lies with those who can think beyond the immediate struggles for dominance. John's ability to transcend the expectations placed on him, his age, his past, and his quiet life, marks the beginning of a new understanding of power in the galaxy. In conclusion, Point 10 encapsulates the central message of the story. True power is not about dominance through force or technology, but about the choices we make, the control we exert over our lives, and the ability to influence the world around us. John Kane's final act, his quiet return to his home, serves as a lasting reminder that while humanity may have been seen as insignificant or weak, individuals like John have the capacity to shape the future, regardless of age or circumstance. The galaxy and the Galactic Council will never forget the day they dared to cross the Warden. And as John Kane steps back into his quiet life, he leaves the galaxy with the question, what happens when such a force chooses to act again?